So, 'tis that time of year. I know it's only December, but I love I love planning, I love setting goals, all that sort of stuff. So, I've actually made one of these recordings already for myself, and it was extremely, extremely long. So, I'm going to try and make this one shorter, and I've pared down my goals a little bit. So, I've been watching all these YouTube videos, as one does. And like I said, I've been thinking about, okay, what are just kind of the minimal amount of things that I want to get done this year. So the first one, I don't really have a clear name for this, but I'm just calling it school/work. So I would really like to have a job starting in the beginning of 2026, because I will be writing my thesis then, and I think, I've done a master's thesis before, and I think I can write and work at the same time. So that means over the coming year, I want to look up all the job fairs, be really active with going to job fairs, networking opportunities. I have made some job applications just because I feel like it's really good for me. I get a little bit freaked out about it, or I'm too stressed if I'm oh my God, I need a job. So I want to actually start applying for jobs regularly, and hopefully maybe go to some interviews and just kind of see what happens. The recruitment process is also super, super, super long here, so it's actually not necessarily a bad idea to start more than a year ahead of when you want the job, just to kind of, I don't know, get more comfortable with it and see what's out there. I have gotten a job before here, and it was brutal and horrible. So like I said, I need to get over that fear of putting myself out there and doing that sort of thing. So that's what I'm going to be working on this year. And of course, passing all my classes, and which, I mean, ordinarily I do that without any particular effort. I have been really struggling with one of the classes that I took this term, which is really depressing, but you know what, whatever, it's fine. I'm working on it. I am actually pretty good. I've been doing pretty well on not procrastinating. I say that as somebody who is currently procrastinating on studying for an exam by creating this video right now. But anyway, so that's kind of, like I said, it's kind of very vague. I guess the end goal is, like I said, to have some kind of job that starts beginning of not next year, but the year after. And so I'm going to be doing all of these things in the coming year: the networking, the job fairs, the passing on my classes, which means not procrastinating, which means, all of these other good things to do anyway. So that's my number one thing, school/work. Obviously, these are not SMART goals, because they are not very specific and measurable and all that sort of thing. But I have never found that to be a particularly successful framework for me, because usually my goals are to do more of something, or get better at something, or do something differently. And then it's kind of, I've never had the goal to make X amount of money or whatever. It just doesn't make sense for me. So, first, school and work. Secondly, I'm just calling this movement. So I have always been, actually, no, we can say always. I have always been a very physically active person, horseback riding, hiking, swimming, and in the last, for most of my adult life, it's been skateboarding, dancing, figure skating, climbing, snowboarding, etc., etc. I love active hobbies, and I do them a lot. And I really like climbing and snowboarding, have kind of been my number ones. I did start with longboard dancing, skating, figure skating. And so for a couple years, figure skating and longboarding and skateboarding were much higher on my list of priorities. But climbing has always been there. Over the past couple years, I have really my climbing has gotten a lot worse. So about 5 years ago, I could regularly climb 6B plus bouldering. I was working on 6C bouldering. I could sometimes, often enough, climb 6C top rope. Then the pandemic hit. I didn't really go climbing. Then I got back to it. It was like a year almost that I didn't really go climbing. I got back to it. It was pretty good. And then I got sick. And after I got sick, my conditioning was just completely shit. And I was exhausted all the time and I couldn't do it. So, I was really good at climbing in like 2020, beginning of 2020. And then for 2020, 2021, 2022, I was either not going to the gym or I was sick and my conditioning was shit. And then I kind of started coming back, but I was just so frustrated because it was just really difficult for me to do something that I used to be really good at and then to just like suck at it. I just sucked at it and I was not getting better. The thing is that when I was really good at climbing, I was climbing, 3 to 5 times a week. 3 to 5 times a week, let's say. And so then I kind of dropped it for a little while. So like 21, 22, 23, I was mostly doing figure skating. That was my number one. At one point I was figure skating like 3 times a week. And then that got insanely expensive and super late at night. So I have kind of gone back to climbing. And this year now I've made some new connections, some new classmates who also climb, and I have been improving. Now I can more regularly climb 6A bouldering, more regularly climb 6B top rope. And so I'm finally seeing progress. And I want to keep this progress and I want to get better. So that's, movement. I want to climb at minimum 2 times a week, maybe more like 3 or 4 times a week. And now I'm feeling much more encouraged to do so because I have actually been seeing progress. I don't have a specific goal with climbing. I just want it to like keep going like it is. So I did at one point, I was like, I want to climb 6B bouldering again. And so I have climbed 6B bouldering again, but then it's just like the occasional route that is just right for me, instead of it being like the grade that I'm usually climbing at. So even when I was at like very beginning of this year, I was able to climb a couple of 6B routes, but then on a regular day, I wouldn't even be able to do most of the 6As. So now I'm trying to build back up so that I can do most of the 6As, and then 6B is where I'm working on. So right now I'm working on 6A. I can do most of the 5s and I can do some 6As. So I want to move that up this year. So that, and also I have also been walking. I've been walking a lot. We live by the woods where there's a lit pathway, and it is so nice. And I have been walking a lot, like 10,000 steps a day or more, especially in the summer. I would walk into town and it was so nice. So actually I had this idea. I was like, because for me, part of the thing is that I have a really hard time falling asleep at night. I just don't feel tired or I feel anxious, and walking, even if I'm doing all these other sports, even if I'm doing multiple other sports the same day, nothing works as well as going on a couple really long walks. I don't know if you've ever been like, on a trip or something, or if you've gone on a hike and you do like 15, 20,000 steps, you sleep, or at least for me, I sleep so well. So that was amazing this summer. Like I said, I would just walk into town, walk home. It was great. I have forced myself to continue doing this, and I have been really, really good about it up until right now. Like the last 2 to 3 days, we've been having this where it gets really cold and it freezes and then it melts a little bit and it freezes again and it melts a little bit. And all of the pathways are just like glass. They're just like smooth mirror ice. And it is so difficult to walk on. I'm like, I need some of those little spike things or whatever. I even have winter running shoes, and those are not cutting it because it's just, yeah, it's really difficult to walk anywhere, and it takes so long to get any significant amount of steps. I don't know. I feel like I am pretty tall and I take like big steps. Yes, but also walking is so slow because sometimes you're just like shuffling along. Anyway, that is something I want to keep working on. Because it kind of dovetails into, of course, there's all this other stuff I want to work on. Like I want to work on my health in general. I actually think I need to eat more when I'm doing all of these sports. I definitely need to think about that. Like I need to eat more actual food instead of just being like, oh, I had fika, I had a snack or whatever, I'm fine. And yeah, I also want to, I'm not sure if it's a good idea or not to focus on sleep specifically. I'm a little like, I might just try and climb as much as possible and walk as much as possible and hope that helps, because the whole sleep thing, it's all of these things are interconnected. So, right, my first goal is school and work. My second goal is movement, but also kind of like if I move more, I will be on screens less, which is another thing I want to do. I want to spend less time on screens. So the more that I am out walking, the more that I am out climbing or doing whatever else, the less time I spend on screens, the better I'll sleep. The more I move, the better I sleep. This is all kind of interconnected, but I'm not really 100% sure that I want to have sleep as a focus because sometimes I feel like I do everything right. I drink no coffee, no screens for like X number of hours before bed, no screens after I wake up, no blue light. I have blue light blocking glasses, blah, 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 blah. And I still am just like lying sort of half awake all night. And yeah, anyway, it's a whole thing. But movement is something I can control. So, deciding to go out on walks, even if it's raining, even if it's cold. There's that saying, no bad weather, only bad clothing. And I have really taken that to heart. And it has 100% worked, like I said, up until the last 2 days, because this ice is killing me. Like, even if it is a little bit icy or snowy, sometimes it's still fine because you can like walk on the sides of the path or whatever, but everything is just an ice ball right now. So it's not really fun to go out for a shuffle instead of a brisk walk, So yeah, those are school and work, movement / general health. Those all kind of feed into each other. My third one is art. So these are my 3. The thing is that I have so many other hobbies that I'm interested in, so many other things that I have been really, really into at some point or another. At some point, like I said, I have been figure skating 3 times a week. At some point, I have been doing longboarding, all through the winter. We were longboard dancing indoors, so on and so forth. Also dance. At some point, I have been really into dance. The thing is that we haven't been having any workshops because we don't have a teacher here, etc., etc. Anyway, so what I'm thinking is I'm like I said, I want to focus on climbing and I want to focus on art because through all of these other hobbies and interests, my interest in them has kind of waxed and waned with different seasons, which is fine, but I always end up coming back to it. But art has always been there. I have so many ideas. I have the ideas, I have the skills, I have the materials, and I just don't sit down and do it. I just don't start. And then it's like I often do start, or I'll start a bunch of little things and then I never finish. And so this is, like I said, I'm always interested, no matter what, in my own little projects and stuff. So I really want to try really hard this coming year to do more art. And then obviously that's not a specific goal either, but I don't really want to set a specific goal. I just want to spend more of my time doing art, because when I spend time working on my own art projects, I feel so good. Just like when I spend more time climbing, walking, moving, being outside, being with friends instead of being on screens, when I spend more time working on my own art rather than being on screens, it feels so much better. So that is my third most important goal. Then there are some other things that are not really like goals, but like things on my to-do list for this year. Like, I would really like to finally I have some boxes of stuff that needs to go to the thrift store. I want to finally do that so I have more space. I want to finally sell off some of my collection items. Like I said, I have a lot of Legos, I have a lot of new items, and I have come to the realization that I'm not interested in collecting new toys. I'm only interested in collecting vintage toys. So I really want to sell those things, and if they don't sell, I'll give them away so that I have space in my cupboard and in my shelves for vintage things that I really, really do want. Yeah. So then the other piece of that, or the other part of that hobby, which has also stayed with me, that is also one of the ones that I've constantly been into. Yeah, maybe I can get a little bit of money back and then put that back into my collection, or put it back into, I don't know, getting different shelves and redoing my display and all that sort of thing. Yeah, so that would be, those are kind of tasks rather than goals. So put some stuff up for sale, send some stuff to the thrift. These are kind of tasks, right? And then later on, this is a whole year, later on in the year, I've also been thinking about, I would really like to have a standing desk, like a desk that I can adjust up and down. Because like I said, I would really like to stand and work at my desk. That would be amazing. That might be a far future thing. But yeah, anyway, just thinking about that, like selling some things to make a little money to put back into my hobby/workspace. Yes, so aside from those three things, school and work, movement, walking/climbing, and art, I have some of these tasks here. And then I'm also thinking about things like snowboarding. Like I said previously, that has been very high on my priority list. I've had some years where I snowboarded several weeks during the year. I didn't do anything else except for save for snowboarding trips and then take time off of work to go on snowboarding trips. And I was going on the weekends and all this stuff. There are already snowboarding trips planned for this week. There's a family one that I'm going to do with my boyfriend and his family, and there's one that I'm going to do for a friend's birthday. And I also have a friend who I am going to try and teach him how to snowboard just at the local hills. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be super grateful that I get to do that. And I don't need to put it in my list of goals or anything. Same thing with dancing. I have a friend who is much better at dancing than I am. And I'm thinking of asking her if she would be willing to, I don't know, just give me some tips, because I am practicing the steps at home. So that will be sort of on the back burner, as well as figure skating. I am able to go to a rink by my house. It's free to go to public skate here. So I am able to go to a rink within walking distance of me. So I'm just thinking more if I get the chance to go and skate a little bit and practice a little bit, that's great. I'm not going to put any of those things on a list of specific stuff that I have to get done this year. I'm just going to be if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, that's okay. I might have on my to-do list, I want to go skating at least a couple times, indoors at my favorite indoors rink. And I'd love to go outdoors too, because we have some beautiful outdoor rinks here. So yeah, go at least once, have fun. Longboarding is now it's more of a summer thing. I'm not willing to put in the effort to try and be able to do it indoors during the winter. So, but I have so much fun going in the summer and fall with a friend of mine. So yeah, snowboarding, figure skating, longboarding, dancing. I'm like, I will just do those when I get the chance and be grateful and not force myself to try and meet, like, I don't know, sometimes I have like a bajillion different goals and I get none of them done. So now I'm trying to have only 3, and those 3 are really focus on, you know, schoolwork and career type of thing, because there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of stuff I need to do with that. And you know what? It's really fun. I'm always into that. I'm always into that. So that's the thing. This year, I'm picking 3 things to focus on that are like evergreen. I'm always into them. Instead of like figure skating or longboarding, where sometimes I go through periods where I love it, and then I go through periods where I don't want to do it and I kind of hate it. So yeah, we're going to focus on school and work. We're going to focus on movement, climbing as much as possible, and also walking, getting out there and moving during the days I don't climb. And thirdly, I want to do more art. And I think the combination of these things will also help me. If I do well on these things, it will also help me spend less time on screens, and it will help me sleep better. So yeah, those are my plans for this year. What are your plans for this year?